Welcome to the business plan for Jeffrey Morse Ministries. This is the final assessment for the business plan class for Brandman University. Executive Summary. Jeffrey Morse Ministries is an internationally based nonprofit startup with the goal of providing humanitarian aid throughout the world, delivering the gospel of Jesus Christ, planting churches, training leaders, and equipping people to carry on the ministry of Christ in similar fashion. Jeffrey Morse Ministries is both a product and service-based company. The product is free of charge and is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Services range from providing food and the necessities of life, especially after a major crisis, establishing churches and educational facilities all around the world. Jeffrey Morse Ministries is a volunteer-based organization. As such, employees and volunteers constantly rotate. However, all who align themselves with Jeffrey Morse Ministries have one objective: to love people. The mission of Jeffrey Morse Ministries. Jeffrey Morse Ministries mission statement: we are connecting the salvation gospel to the world to bring hope to the hopeless, food to the hungry, shelter to the homeless, and to bring all of this by preaching the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ through evangelism, missions, music, worship, education, and media, the establishing of churches, and the training and ordination of apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, teachers, missionaries, worship leaders, minstrels, and any other office that is beneficiary to the work of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We will take advantage of every legal opportunity and every legal resource to accomplish this end. The vision statement of Jeffrey Morse Ministries. The people of Jeffrey Morse Ministries will center on proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ to people in every country of the world, while fulfilling the call to feed, clothe, house, and minister to all we can, while demonstrating excellence, honesty, faithfulness, and the love of Christ. Jeffrey Morse Ministries' distinctive core competencies lay in its vision statement, while demonstrating excellence, honesty, faithfulness, and the love of Christ. While Jeffrey Morse Ministries does not hold the monopoly on honesty, today so many humanitarian and religious organizations seem to be for profit. Jeffrey Morse Ministries is focused on the items listed in its mission statement. This company is not here to make someone wealthy, but rather to enrich the lives of those in need. You see, Jeffrey Morse Ministries decided to go with an LLC, though it's uncommon, to save money while in its startup phase. This allows us to begin to help those in need with the monies that we would normally be spending in salaries. However, there will be a time when we have to convert to the corporate structure. The industry analysis and trends of humanitarian need. Currently, the industry is doing pretty well. The trend: people are giving more than ever. This is a chart published by Forbes.com, and it really lists the top 100. We're only going to show the first 10 or 11. Number 1, United Way worldwide, with private donations of $3.471 billion and 3.9 total revenue. 91% fundraising efficiencies. And we're just going to go through these real quick. Feeding America was at $2.6 billion by private donation. AmeriCares is at $2.3 billion. The Task Force for Global Health, $2.1 billion. Salvation Army, $2 billion even. Number 6, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Number 7, Direct Relief. Habitat for Humanity is 8. Boys and Girls Club of America is 9. YMCA is 10. And 11, Food for the Poor. The top 8 are over $1 billion a year in individual charitable giving. What can Jeffrey Morse Ministries do with your dollar? Jeffrey Morse Ministries can partner with people like World Vision to help get rid of disease-infested water that kills millions every year needlessly. Being non-denominational allows Jeffrey Morse Ministries to partner with organizations like CBN or Samaritan's Purse to bring resources such as clothing, school supplies, and art supplies, and basic educational needs that will provide the hope and tools needed to rebuild lives. Jeffrey Morse Ministries partners with like the Ford Foundation, fighting for human rights in all forms. One example of this might be Ford's Girls Not Brides campaign, fighting for women who are forced to be married, or worse, human trafficked. Another organization out there doing it right is the Doctors Without Borders organization. Premature deaths in millions of children and adults around the world due from illness that is preventable and treatable. Jeffrey Morse Ministries will work with organizations such as Doctors Without Borders to provide the gift of basic health care and medicine that literally will save and transform the lives of hundreds of thousands. No matter where you go in the world, it seems like the need is overwhelming. Though the need is so great, humanitarian organizations such as Jeffrey Morse Ministries are stepping up to meet the need. According to Calicut 2018, it's estimated that 201 million people in 134 countries were subject to crisis and needed some form of humanitarian aid. Though the Middle East countries continue to reduce aid funding from private donors, individuals, nonprofits, trusts, and foundations are increased. Individual charitable contributions remain the single largest source of donations, though those from trusts and foundations are growing. The need is high, but the resource to meet that need is increasing. Jeffrey Morse Ministries can create a platform centered on excellence, technology, and Christ to take the resource of those who give and meet humanitarian needs quickly and efficiently by introducing next-generation web-based technology that simply links three things together: current NGOs that respond in action, an up-to-date crisis monitoring system, and the individuals, the foundations, and the governments willing to supply the need for those in crisis. Won't you be one of them? According to BEA.gov, the GDP for the first quarter in 2019 rose by about 3.1 trillion. That's the purple one on the top. Also, according to a report performed by Stanford University, giving to charities has substantially increased between the years 2000 and 2019, almost matching the GDP curve exactly. Both the fact that there's a great need and there's an economy increase and a giving increase show that the market is very healthy. Charitable giving is way up. Philanthropic giving by faith-based organizations is also up. This is shown in the red line. The orange line is giving to your local church. It seems to be down. This trend is believed to continue as long as people have disposable incomes. Since the evolution of the industry has now become an official career choice, you can get your master's degree now in humanitarian aid, the need is ever increasing, and crisis is always looming. There is no other option but for these trends to continue to increase. If one also reviews the sustainability movement in business, the tendency to heal environments and solve global warming, alongside humanitarian crisis, firms such as Jeffrey Morse Ministries have the potential to increase and meet the need. As the world becomes more enlightened, one can only expect that in 5 or 10 years, philanthropic giving will double. In addition, as global warming challenges become more apparent, the Earth can expect to increase in natural disasters. Not only does this bring the need for humanitarian aid, but also the need for counseling, spiritual guidance, and education. Here's a UNICEF response distribution map for 2012. It's believed that in 2019 that this is at least tripled. What are some of the things that show the strategic timing and positioning of Jeffrey Morse Ministries? Well, for one, we have the economic standing of the U.S., higher than it's been for a long time, as we've looked already. Secondly, though, the internet and technology boom has impacted the world at large. Today, it's like one world, a flat world. Media and television and cell phones can be accessed in every place on the earth. This makes things like logistics more relaxed and cheaper. Also, since crisis is so readily seen on social media, the outcry to do something by the world's population has increased. Organizations such as the UN have sites that report on crisis globally, like newun.org. Such sites are adding to the outcry for humanitarian aid. On the gospel front, the mass migration from Iran continues. According to worldpoliticsreview.com, this gives opportunity to share the gospel by mass. When it comes to competitors, there are many, but Jeffrey Morse Ministry choose to look at them as partners and allies, such as Action Against Hunger or CARE International, or even Doctors Without Borders. What do all these have in common? What makes them all strategically positioned? Well, according to the chart, the U.S. is second in the world in giving. This provides a strategic advantage over other humanitarian organizations outside of the U.S. Other NGOs include Doctors Without Borders, World Vision, UNICEF, and Samaritan's Purse. Samaritan's Purse is the benchmark organization for Jeffrey Morse Ministries. However, it is Jeffrey Morse Ministries' goal to meet or exceed UNICEF's 82 out of 100 CEO approval rate. Jeffrey Morse Ministries' strengths include the call of God, the outcry to do something by governments and peoples, U.S. economics and the upswing in giving. Jeffrey Morse Ministries is based out of California, which is a liberal government. Also, we have a new base of operations at a lower cost. Lastly, Jeffrey Morse Ministries has an existing web presence and a lot of work already performed. To add, the CEO just got his own bachelor's degree in business administration leadership. Weaknesses include the fact that Jeffrey Morse Ministries is relatively unknown and has not yet completed an international response. Jeffrey Morse Ministries also has a lack of resource and lack of volunteers. And it's still a startup, just beginning. Opportunities include the amount of aid needed in the world today. Opportunities exist in obtaining higher education in humanitarian efforts. There's an opportunity in media. Jeffrey Morse Ministries has a media channel available as the CEO does live streams at the church in which he's on staff at. Also, media opportunities exist due to the nature of social media. Also, further opportunities exist to partner with those organizations already in the field. The threats for Jeffrey Morse Ministries is, well, its biggest threat is not obtaining the needed resources to fulfill its call. Secondly, if Jeffrey Morse Ministries is unable to retain its nonprofit status for any reason. Lastly, there's a threat that exists in its image. Jeffrey Morse Ministries must be diligent to protect its image, as in the humanitarian field, only one bad report can mean the end of ministry. Looking at the organization through the AAA, adaption comes out because Jeffrey Morse Ministries can adapt to focus more locally or focus more globally. Aggregation could also play a part, especially when purchasing supplies for aid, but during the startup, not so much. Arbitrage, at its core, is defined as buy low, sell high. Alternatively, arbitrage could take on another meaning. If Jeffrey Morse Ministries can search out what it is that current global ministries are struggling with and fill the need they have, this could easily springboard the firm into the global marketplace. The downfall of this is it could create only one area of ministry, but that ministry would be a global one. In conclusion, after looking at the SWOT and the AAA for the strategic analysis, it's decided that this firm do an unbalanced hybrid strategy, mainly focusing on arbitrage, but adapting for local ministries also. This would help Jeffrey Morse Ministries to establish its name locally and globally at the same time. However, there's problems with setting timetable with this method because the who and when of the opportunity to provide ministry and retain adequate resource to do so may be highly randomized. When looking at strategic intent, first, establishing Jeffrey Morse Ministries both locally and globally. Secondly, it's JMM's intent to improve interagency response by completing and distributing our version of the Crisis app. Thirdly, it is Jeffrey Morse Ministries' intent to create a practical and inclusive humanitarian partnership system, both regionally and globally. Here's the list we're working on. SMART goals are imperative. We started with the nonprofit standing. Then, next, the CEO received his bachelor's degree in business from Brandman University. Next, any paperwork that is still needed needs to be finished and sent no later than November 2019. Any financial costs that are needed for any paperwork that needs to be filed needs to be accumulated by December 20, 2019. And all paperwork needs to be mailed and paid for no later than January 1, 2020. Jeffrey Morse Ministries will have been informed whether the property that it is now residing on is going to fall underneath its handling. If it does, then local efforts for ministry will begin. If not, attempts will be made to align with global ministries like World Vision. And finally, with a bachelor's degree, business opportunities should begin to be presented. The CEO with that bachelor's degree could even begin to teach overseas, which would springboard Jeffrey Morse Ministries into the global market through education. Jeffrey Morse Ministries products and services. The biggest product that Jeffrey Morse Ministries offers, of course, is the gospel. Now, the gospel is free, but it was very expensive to purchase. We offer it free along with all the things that Jesus did while he was presenting the gospel. He would feed the poor and heal the sick and deliver those that need deliverance. So the product of Jeffrey Morse Ministries changes according to who's looking at it. For big business, it might be merely a tax write-off. For the person called to make a change, it's an opportunity to do just that. One person may feel that the best way they can have a positive effect is to volunteer. Another person may not have the time to volunteer, but may choose to donate, making it possible for others to go in their place. For the founder of Jeffrey Morse Ministries, the product is love, but it's not for sale. Jesus offers a new life, deliverance from bondage, healings, a friend who will walk through trials and tribulations, but most of all, the freedom to choose. More than anything else in the world, the gospel of Jesus Christ has brought healing and hope and security. For a comprehensive testimony of the power of God to heal, please go to YouTube and search God Healed Me. The emissaries of Christ at Jeffrey Morse Ministries offer food, shelter, and whatever they can to meet the need when they are equipped to do so, and sometimes when they're not. For many, it's just an opportunity of a positive impact for them to invest. Others, an opportunity to right the wrongs or atone for some past thing. Others still are driven by the inward need to do good. Jeffrey Morse Ministries serves people. Areas of service include training, education, food, shelter, and clothing. While the only real call is from Jesus, he tells us if we have done it for any of these, then we have done it for him. There's two things that really make Jeffrey Morse Ministry worthwhile. One is answering God's call, and the other is answering people's need. Today, most who seek riches find that they're unfulfilling. Real riches cannot be measured in dollars. Jesus' legacy is that he does good and heals all he can heal, and always tells the truth. He is the truth, life, and the way. Amazingly, he taught this over 2,000 years ago, and today it's mostly still unlearned. One pastor, when he asked if celebrating Christmas was of God, his response was, "Have you ever seen a child's face light up when they go to open presents on a Christmas morning? Pure joy cannot be bought, but money can buy presents." At the end of the day, one may look in the mirror. At that moment, do they hate who they see or do they love who they see? Jeffrey Morse Ministries will bring meaning to the lives of those who administer ministry and to those in crisis. Those in crisis are comforted by ministering angels. Those that supply revenue take part in making this all happen. What is the price tag for a life? The service of Jeffrey Morse Ministries is to supply the gospel of Jesus Christ, spiritual guidance, establish educational centers, emergency aid, food, clothes, medical or housing in short term, and work to train people to provide those things for themselves. We accomplish a lot of what we do by partnering with organizations that are already out there doing it. There are liability concerns in the field. Lives can be lost, people can be kidnapped, and property stolen. This is human nature, it seems. The same freedom given by God that allows some to seek to save life, unfortunately, also provides opportunity for some to take life. The same freedom that allows one person to give money also allows another to steal it. As the champions of light battle to stay the darkness, sometimes darkness still prevails temporarily. In any case, it is imperative that before Jeffrey Morse Ministries has anyone go out into ministry, that the appropriate steps are in place. There are legal concerns as well. While in another country, Jeffrey Morse Ministry representatives do not hold diplomatic immunity of any type. They must obey local laws, which in turn suggests that they must know the local laws. Lastly, communication is always a concern. One may unintentionally say something offensive or cause problems. Therefore, it is best for managers to know local customs and the language. Jeffrey Morse Ministries will never send anybody in the field without having proper insurance or the proper immunizations, and will also have trackers on every person in the field. Currently, Jeffrey Morse Ministries is classified under LLC to keep costs low, as the resource to support a corporate structure does not exist. While an LLC is not optimal for humanitarian responders, nor for those that bring the gospel, it does provide a way for Jeffrey Morse Ministries to begin to respond to the need. Hiring projections have been created using 3 separate models, and those are available if you would like to go to Jeffrey Morse Ministries site and look at the page, the complete business plan. Jeffrey Morse Ministries' goal is to convert to a corporation within 5 years. In this model, there is only a CEO for the first year, then a CEO and secretary for the second year, and then for the following 3 years after that, we hire a key manager each year. Those same key managers will eventually become the board of directors at the time of incorporation. Also, it's noted that there's a cap limit on wage for anybody that works for Jeffrey Morse Ministries, in the management team especially. Cap limits are set at $100,000 a year, and it takes quite a bit to get there. The reason is because the money that comes in needs to go out to meet the need of crisis or to preach gospel for the purpose in which the donation was given. For further information on the hiring and management structure of Jeffrey Morse Ministries, please consult the Constitution and the bylaws at jeffreymorseministries.com. Also, the biggest workforce of Jeffrey Morse Ministry is its volunteers. Most work is done on a volunteer basis. Managers are sent out to evaluate and deliver aid response in crisis, but volunteers will be doing all the actual work. Notice to the left, all positions listed in pink and brown are volunteers. The mission of Jeffrey Morse Ministries is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, provide humanitarian aid, food, clothes, housing, and medical, to establish schools and places of worship, and to license and train ministers. Our customer is anyone who has not heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, who needs food, clothing, or shelter, or requires education. The customers of Jeffrey Morse Ministries value the truth, empathy, and sincerity, and people or organizations who are willing to provide help without judgment. Jeffrey Morse Ministry finds that there is a need for altruism, a need of ministry, and a need for action in crisis. So what is the plan? Jeffrey Morse Ministries plans to connect the charitable efforts of people with the needs of others. The first stop in the marketing plan is to get the name known. This plan includes the establishment of a web page with a blog that uploads pictures of current ministries in which Jeffrey Morse Ministries is involved. The current page is outdated and needs upgrading. Secondly, create a social web presence by utilizing Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and YouTube. Each social place must receive updates twice a week minimum, excluding YouTube, which will have 2 channels, one for the preached word or teaching, one for healings or humanitarian efforts being provided. Finally, it is imperative that the other players in the humanitarian evangelistic field begin to hear from Jeffrey Morse Ministries regularly, first through introduction letters and flyers, emails, and then further communication designed to align Jeffrey Morse Ministries with these ministries and organizations. Jeffrey Morse Ministries will use media, TV, radio, YouTube, and Facebook ads to advertise its name and its mission. Helping organizations in the responding to crisis is also marketing. By responding together hand in hand with other organizations, Jeffrey Morse Ministries will become trusted. Next, this part is also an action plan, but to start actively seeking revenue and build up funds for humanitarian aid, crisis response, and preaching the gospel. Finally, Jeffrey Morse Ministries will take on humanity efforts as the lead organization. This will bring the name Jeffrey Morse Ministries up front and will also establish the ministry as a mainstream global crisis responder. To the potential issues in the marketing plan: 1. Information. Information's always been problematic in humanitarian efforts. It is our hope that the Crisis app will pretty much take care of this. Also, distribution tiers. The distribution tiers are yet to be designed for the logistics of food and clothing and humanitarian aid. At this time, it is the goal of Jeffrey Morse Ministries to utilize the UPS Foundation, the FedEx Foundation, other NGOs that already have distribution tiers and logistics in place alongside the military and government organizations. The Customer Relationship Management Plan also falls underneath marketing. The CRMP for Jeffrey Morse Ministries is social media based. By utilizing social media, customer relationships management can excel. In addition, traditional methods such as email, video conferencing, and mail will be used when needed. Lastly, personal one-on-one meetings many times are the only way to get something done or resolved. However, since all revenue is through charitable donations and Jeffrey Morse Ministries is mandated to be a good steward of those funds, expensive flights and hotel stays will only be when absolutely necessary. If there is any possibility of accomplishing the work through video conferencing or other means, this will be the first choice. The handling of unsatisfied people and complaints is of utmost importance. All efforts will be made to resolve any issue. Other things that might help in marketing is the Management Information System Plan. The expanded Crisis app is the cornerstone of Jeffrey Morse Ministries' Management Information System, and it gives us a competitive advantage. Logistic checks will occur on an online portal accessible from a cell phone. The supply chain will be tracked by scan code and entered into the Management Information System. At an instant, Jeffrey Morse Ministries should be able to locate resource coming in and its delivery time, as well as humanitarian needed items going out and its delivery time. The portal will also include employee and management check-ins that have comment areas for problems encountered that are carbon copied to the key management team. This not only keeps track of employee safety abroad, but also allows the team to work out any hiccups right away. The Management Information System will develop lists of preferred logistics that are available for scheduling for which items need shipping. Inventories of food, clothing, perishables, and medical supplies will also be kept in the management information system. On another note, according to Darnall and Preston, 2012, first mover advantage often lasts for decades or more. Though Jeffrey Morse Ministries will not be the first in responding to crisis aid or preaching the gospel, its approach may prove to have first mover benefits anyway. The Crisis app linked with the supply chain management, human resource risk management, and the information system management is revolutionary and may supply first mover advantages. Some of the other ways that Jeffrey Morse Ministries can achieve a competitive advantage might be the home country demand. Knowing one's market locally may be an advantage. Still, other advantages include total quality management, innovation, joint ventures, strategic alliance, and customer focus. Further, since Jeffrey Morse Ministries is people-centered, its ability to get and retain great employees should excel as a result of the fully paid health and benefit plan. Lastly, our people will be doing what they love because they care about people and the environment. As a result, sustainable green options will be chosen, and quality will be addressed in the total quality fashion. The 4 P's of product, price, place, and promotion are also known as the product mix. How the 4 P's apply to Jeffrey Morse Ministries? The product is through humanitarian aid and the gospel. Both are free to the customer, but cost a lot to provide. The place is the place of need, which is the entire world. This leaves only promotion. Promoting Jeffrey Morse Ministries was covered in the marketing strategy. However, today is an optimal time for Jeffrey Morse Ministries to upstart, as charitable contributions are at a high in the U.S. The overall marketing strategy of Jeffrey Morse Ministry is not focused on the customer only, but the provider. Also, in the financial forecast for Jeffrey Morse Ministries, it was recommended that we pursue foundational grants as a source. This may be difficult as most foundations like to see a history in humanitarian aid, and Jeffrey Morse Ministries is new to the global arena. To compound the problem, most foundations prefer to give to nonprofit corporations, not nonprofit LLCs. However, Jeffrey Morse Ministry only needs one significant donation to get the wheels rolling. Therefore, we will pursue foundational grants as a supplemental form of revenue. In the specific marketing mix, Jeffrey Morse Ministries uses foundational grants only minimally. Individual donations are the primary source of revenue. This means without your help, nothing happens. Inability to satisfy the target market needs lay in the targeting algorithms of Google and Facebook. Weaknesses might include such things as knowing how many potential contributors use those sites. It may be necessary to develop algorithms marketing plan for those that give large donations. The communications plan is the final area of this section. We put it underneath marketing and competitive advantage because it's used in both areas. First, international communication will be face-to-face whenever possible. This will alleviate misunderstandings. Face-to-face can be video chatting. Resources such as Monday.com for scheduling and task accomplishment will be leveraged. Video chat is preferred over phone calls, and Facebook has a free one worldwide. Weekly internal mandatory meetings, keeping track of logistics, goal accomplishment, and upcoming endeavors will be held. Finally, any change to a project must be approved in a weekly meeting by the key managers. Externally, Jeffrey Morse Ministry representatives must be polite, empathetic, and professional. Language is maintained as an example of purity. No foul language is acceptable at any time. When addressing problems, it is important to find the best resolution for both the customer and the provider. Finally, when dealing with people, it is Jeffrey Morse Ministries' instruction not to be alone. There must always be a witness to prevent false allegations of any type. There's a computer network plan that's available upon request. On the operations front, we have to look at what are the products involved in the supply chain of Jeffrey Morse Ministry. JMM is like several businesses rolled up into one organization. First, presenting the gospel might include travel, housing, and food for sure. However, there are two items that may be overlooked that would be at the heart of all ministries. At the top of the list is relationship. Cultivating relationships with governments is of utmost priority. Secondly, developing relationships with humanitarian organizations in other countries is the second most crucial part of the supply chain of Jeffrey Morse Ministries. Following those is cultivating relationships with individuals. Getting boots at ground zero of a crisis as fast as possible is the first call. The second call might be humanitarian needs such as water, food, clothing, and shelter. Because of the necessities of quickness of time, it is imperative that good relationships are cultivated with governments and humanitarian organizations on foreign continents. It is simple. The closer the product is, the quicker it will arrive. While one might argue that with today's super-fast air freight world delivery system, that this is no longer true. The logic behind this is simple. Air freight costs more than truck, train, or marine cargo. The competitive advantage is in the time factor. If Jeffrey Morse Ministries can deliver its product as fast as air freight by utilizing a resource that is nearer to the crisis, while cutting costs by using a different mode of delivery, then more dollars can be spent on actual aid than on logistics. In business, this is not a new idea. So factors in operation management include relationships with governments, humanitarian organizations, and others, cross-docking, just-in-time supply chain strategies, quantitative factors such as cost, utility, taxes, housing, and qualitative factors which include environmental climate, labor climate, political climate, quality of life, proximity to volunteers, proximity to suppliers and resources, because the loss of hope is hard to fight. If help is close, there's the added effect of producing hope in the lives of those affected by the crisis. The Bible says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. Resource planning is needed to better coordinate the activities of operations, distribution. Implications in the master schedule need allowances for personnel, shipping, workforce requirements, purchases of materials, and finance. Resource planning helps to tie all parts of an organization together in producing a strategic plan. Parts of the strategic plan include benchmarking, the plan, do, check, act cycle, scheduling and data collection, cradle to end of life or cradle to cradle, and green policies. Here is the supply chain breakdown. You'll see for most things it's giving from individuals, foundations, governments, or for-profit entities. And then once in a while you'll have partners that forward grants and stuff to us. And then they'll go through the crisis app and then usually out to the partners, such as UPS Foundation for distribution, and sometimes Jeffrey Morse Ministries will set up its own distribution channels and logistics in foreign nations or at home. This is what's meant as partners for distribution. Say we're partnered with UNICEF and it's set up globally, it's distribution network already. So we would partner with them and distribute the aid to the country that they have already set up their logistics and distribution network. This saves time and money and gets the product there faster. According to UNICEF, both human resource need and income is up. Since Jeffrey Morse Ministries is a startup, there's really no historical data to look at. However, as far as the financial plan goes, charitable donations, which will be the most significant source of revenue for Jeffrey Morse Ministries, is up. Therefore, Jeffrey Morse Ministry will advertise monthly calls in both radio, TV, mail, email, social web, billboards. Further, personal calls go out whenever a manager preaches or holds a revival meeting, dinner, or personal outing. Charitable donations come in from partners and other humanitarian organizations, and it's not uncommon for other philanthropic organizations to support each other. Besides this, grants and foundations will represent approximately 25% of Jeffrey Morse Ministries' income. For further information, please consult the financial forecast at jeffreymorseministries.com. Another source of revenue for Jeffrey Morse Ministries is subcontracting with other nonprofit organizations, governments, for-profit organizations, or other government entities like FEMA. This also is a common source of income. Lastly, loans from financial institutions is a source of revenue for the purchasing of buildings, land, or other properties. Loans are not to ever be used for aid or aid supplies. Please note that Jeffrey Morse Ministries has specific rules for financial loans. Please refer to Jeffrey Morse Ministries' Constitution and bylaws. In the financial plan, we need to adjust logistics. Transportation is handled mostly through our partner distribution networks: Coca-Cola, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, Walmart, CMEX, and more. By employing the distribution networks that are already in place, Jeffrey Morse Ministries can ensure a reasonable rate or can even be free. Secondly, military and government transportation is many times a viable solution. This is usually free or at significantly discounted rates when dealing with humanitarian efforts. Thirdly, the distribution network of other humanitarian organizations is also a significant resource. Lastly, the purchase of transportation from one of Jeffrey Morse Ministries' logistic partners can be acquired. The mode of logistics, whether air, sea, or land, depends on the urgency of the aid needed. This is the financial income statement that is shown in the financial forecast for Jeffrey Morse Ministries. It's a humble 0.1% from our benchmark organization. Here is the balance sheet and cash flow statement. Again, 0.1% from our benchmark organization. Remember, this represents 75% of individual giving, charitable giving, and 25% from foundational grants, government grants, and things like that. First, let's look at the plans that are already in motion. Jeffrey Morse Ministries has created and reviewed both its constitution and bylaws for both Jeffrey Morse Ministries LLC and the future of Jeffrey Morse Ministries Incorporated. The articles of LLC are already filed with California State Secretary. It has an EIN numbers. The web pages are already created and in the process of being updated. Subsidiaries to Jeffrey Morse Ministries are established as single proprietary businesses and have their own EIN numbers and are sovereign, but they still exist underneath the Jeffrey Morse Ministries umbrella. The business plan is now being completed. Financial projections have been completed. Currently, the CEO has established a web presence under PC Clues, where there's opportunity for streaming live media over several platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Things that need to be completed in the action plan are review all nonprofit status 501c3 with the IRS, review the web presence and adjust accordingly, do a media blitz, get the name known, then proceed in partnership blitz. Make sure the crisis app is up and usable. Make sure that the supply chain, HR, vendor chain, logistics, and tracking functionality are up and properly accessible. Then upscale the local aid efforts. Hire on key managers. Finally, do the first international response effort plan. And then finally, at the 5-year mark, incorporation. A lofty hope is a 1-year timetable before we address our first major crisis. Realistically, it will probably be closer to 2 years. Remember, no loans from financial institutions will be acquired in the startup of Jeffrey Morse Ministries. In order for this plan to function properly, Jeffrey Morse Ministries needs to contract with as many partners as possible. But that's okay. Humanitarian organizations seem to like to coordinate with each other. Part of having an action plan is to have the action plan in place for crisis. So here we are. 1. Appoint a crisis manager. Evaluate the need and the resource from the crisis app. Develop and circulate crisis procedures. Create emergency communication vehicles. Determine partnership involvement. Establish a schedule. then distribute the aid. Finally, when we leave, make sure everything's clean, better than it was when we got there. The rest of the slides represent what happens when a manager is at a crisis. Please sit back, enjoy the music, and check it out. Thanks for watching.